Right now, someone, somewhere, is kissing hello, kissing goodbye, kissing just because. It feels universal, instinctive, like something written into our DNA since the beginning. But here's the twist. Kissing might not be human nature at all. It might be one of the strangest cultural accidents in our entire history. So did ancient humans actually kiss? The answer is way more complicated than yes or no. Let's start with something that breaks the assumption immediately. Kissing is not universal, not even close. In 2015, anthropologists William Jankowick, Shelley Volsch, and Justin Garcia studied 168 cultures around the world, looking specifically for romantic sexual kissing, lip contact between partners as a sign of affection. The results surprised everyone. Only 46% of cultures studied showed any evidence of romantic kissing at all. More than half had no tradition of it whatsoever. In some indigenous societies in Central America, Africa, and New Guinea, romantic kissing was completely unknown before contact with outside cultures. When anthropologists described the practice to them, some found it confusing. A few found it outright unpleasant. Exchanging saliva on purpose, not romantic, just strange. This one study upended a huge assumption. If kissing were truly hardwired into human biology, you'd expect it everywhere, every culture, every era, independently inventing it. That's not what the evidence shows, which means kissing might not be instinct. It might be something closer to a trend, one that started somewhere specific and spread.
But here's where it gets complicated, because animals kiss too. Sort of. Bonobos, one of our closest living relatives, engage in mouth-to-mouth contact regularly, sometimes with tongue involvement. Researchers have documented this for decades. Chimpanzees do it too, though less frequently, often after conflict as a form of reconciliation. So if our closest primate cousins do something kiss-like, doesn't that suggest kissing is ancient? Not necessarily. Primatologists caution against reading too much into this. Bonobo mouth contact seems tied to social bonding and tension reduction, not romantic or sexual signaling the way humans frame kissing. Similar behavior, possibly a completely different function. So where did human romantic kissing actually come from? One leading theory ties it back to something we've talked about before, scent and taste as a mating filter. Getting physically close enough to smell and taste another person may have let our ancestors unconsciously assess genetic compatibility, similar to the MHC gene signaling found in body odor research. A kiss, under this theory, isn't primarily about affection, it's a biological checkpoint, a close-range health and compatibility scan dressed up as romance. There's evidence supporting this. Studies have found that saliva carries information, hormone levels, immune markers, even subtle chemical signals tied to fertility and genetic makeup. Some researchers argue kissing evolved, at least partly, as an unconscious mate assessment tool, one so effective it stuck around long after we lost conscious awareness of why we were doing it. Now let's talk about the actual historical record, because this is where the story gets genuinely shocking. For decades, the earliest confirmed evidence of kissing was believed to come from South Asia, ancient Vedic Sanskrit texts from around 1500 BC, describing people sniffing with their mouths, an early ambiguous reference some scholars linked to proto-kissing. Then, in 2023, researchers Troels Pink Arbol and Sophie Lund Rasmussen published a study that pushed the timeline back even further. They examined Mesopotamian clay tablets, written in cuneiform, dating back over 4,500 years. Some of these texts from ancient Sumer and Babylon directly described kissing, not as some rare curiosity, as an established, unremarkable part of both married and non-married relationships. One tablet even referenced a married woman being tempted into an affair, with kissing described casually as a normal part of romantic and sexual life.
This matters enormously. It means kissing wasn't invented once in one place and slowly spread outward through history like a viral trend. It was already deeply embedded in Mesopotamian culture, one of the very first urban civilizations, by roughly 2500 BC, possibly earlier. The researchers argued that kissing likely predates written history entirely, simply because writing itself is so new compared to human relationships. We just happened to find the receipts. But here's the part almost nobody expects. That same 2023 study proposed something unsettling. Kissing might explain a major mystery in the history of disease. Herpes simplex virus, specifically HSV-1, has infected humans for tens of thousands of years. It spreads primarily through oral contact. Skin to skin, mouth to mouth. The researchers suggested that the historical spread of kissing as a widespread social custom may have directly accelerated the spread of herpes across ancient populations. In other words, one of humanity's most tender gestures might also be one of history's most efficient disease vectors. Romance and pathology tangled together for thousands of years, and nobody involved had any idea. Let's go even further back, past written history entirely, because there's a genuinely wild theory connecting kissing to something we've discussed before: weaning. Before baby food existed in any modern form, mothers across many ancient cultures practiced something called pre-mastication, chewing food first, then passing it mouth to mouth into an infant's mouth. This wasn't unusual. It was standard infant care across huge portions of human history in societies with no access to soft-prepared foods. Some anthropologists argue this intimate, necessary mouth-to-mouth feeding behavior may have laid unconscious groundwork for kissing as an act of closeness and care, later repurposed by adults into a romantic or sexual gesture entirely disconnected from its original feeding function. Under this theory, the first kiss wasn't romantic at all. It was a mother keeping her child alive. So what actually happened with kissing across human history? It appears in ancient Mesopotamia by at least 2500 BC, described casually like it had already existed for generations before anyone bothered writing it down. It may connect to far older primate bonding behaviors, though the function likely shifted dramatically. It may have originated from a necessity, infant feeding, before evolving into intimacy between adults. And despite feeling like a universal human instinct today, it never actually reached every culture on Earth, spreading unevenly, culture by culture, long after it first began somewhere in the ancient world. So, did ancient humans actually kiss? Some of them definitely, and earlier than almost anyone assumed. Others in societies scattered across the globe never developed the custom at all and lived entire romantic lives without it. Kissing isn't some fixed universal instinct stamped into every human being since the beginning. It's a behavior, learned, passed down, spread slowly across thousands of years, from mouth to mouth, in more ways than one.